Have you ever met someone who just has it? That spark, that energy that makes you pause mid-sentence, turn your head and wonder, who is that? They don't even have to speak. Something about them says, I know who I am. That's Aries energy. Whether it's a bold opinion in a room full of silence, or the way they move through life with urgency and confidence, Aries stands out, not because they try to, but because they can't help it. It's who they are at their core, raw, unfiltered, direct, and blazing with intensity. There's something magnetic about people who don't second-guess themselves. Aries doesn't wait for green lights. They make their own. They don't apologize for their ambition or dim their fire to make others comfortable. And let's be honest, in a world full of filters and hesitation, that kind of authenticity is rare and powerful. If you've ever wondered why Aries seems to dominate every space they enter, from relationships to work to just everyday life, it's not luck, it's not attitude, it's the essence of their sign. Aries is the first of the zodiac for a reason. They don't just walk first, they run, head first, with no regrets. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. So, if you're someone who loves astrology, personality breakdowns, and real zodiac truths, subscribe to Secret of the Zodiac, hit that like button to support this video, and let's explore what makes Aries the powerhouse of the entire zodiac. Because now, we're getting into the real reason you're here. 5 core traits that prove Aries is the most powerful sign of them all. Now that we've opened the door to Aries energy, it's time to step fully into the fire. Because understanding why Aries is the most powerful sign isn't just about listing traits. It's about seeing how those traits shape real people, real choices, and real lives. Aries' power is not abstract. It's visible in every bold move, every fearless risk, every moment they say yes when others hesitate. Let's start with the foundation. These 5 core traits don't just define Aries, they fuel them. They're the inner engine behind the sign's legendary fire. Number 1, they lead naturally. There's no faking leadership. Either you have it or you don't. Aries doesn't force it. They just step into it because it feels natural. In group settings, they rarely stay silent for long. Their mind is already calculating, already creating a solution, already deciding what needs to happen next. Even when they don't intend to take charge, people often end up looking to them for direction. Why? Because Aries exudes certainty, not arrogance, clarity. Picture this. A group of people lost in the woods, unsure of where to go. Everyone's waiting for someone to speak up. Aries won't wait. They'll look around, find the sun, grab a stick, and start carving a path. And people follow, not because they were told to, but because leadership is about action. And Aries always acts. This is the power of instinctual leadership. It's the kind of presence that changes rooms, moves teams, and launches new beginnings. Aries doesn't just lead, they ignite movement. Number 2, fear is not in their vocabulary. Most people weigh risk against reward. Aries, they measure risk by how much it excites them. The bigger the challenge, the more fired up they get. This doesn't mean they're reckless. It means they don't let fear be the deciding voice. They'll start a business from scratch, move across the world on a gut feeling, end a relationship that no longer aligns, even if it's safe or comfortable. Aries is allergic to stagnation. If something feels off, they won't rationalize it. They'll move quickly, with clarity, and most importantly, without asking for approval. One of Aries' greatest strengths is their relationship with fear. They've learned to treat it not as a red light, but as a green one. Fear, to them, is a sign that they're onto something important, something that requires courage. And Aries has courage in spades. In a world where so many people feel stuck by fear, by what-ifs, by doubt, Aries breaks free. They give the rest of us permission to go for it, just by being who they are. Number 3, their energy is relentless. You know that friend who's up at 6 a.m. working out, starting a side hustle, texting you about a new idea they had at midnight, and still somehow managing to meet for dinner and talk about 10 more things they're working on? That's Aries. It's not that they're trying to impress anyone. They genuinely feel alive when they're moving, doing, creating. For Aries, Energy isn't something to be preserved, it's something to be used. They don't burn out from activity, they burn out from boredom. This constant motion might be too much for some, but for Aries, it's survival. Stillness feels suffocating. They want to live every moment like it's on fire. And the wild part? They make it look easy. They don't complain about the hustle. They thrive in it. And their energy isn't just physical. It's emotional and mental too. Aries will show up for you when you're at your worst. They'll fight for you when you're silent. And they'll believe in you when you're unsure of yourself. That's what makes their presence so intense and so deeply powerful. Number 4, confidence comes standard. There's a specific kind of confidence that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to shrink for anyone. Aries has it, not because they're trying to prove something, but because they trust themselves. This doesn't mean Aries never has doubts. Of course they do. They're human. But they don't let those doubts lead the show. They trust their instincts. They believe in their decisions. And when they fail, they own it. They learn fast. They get up faster. There's something magnetic about that kind of self-trust. People feel it. It draws others in. Even people who don't agree with Aries still respect them, because confidence doesn't need consensus. Aries doesn't seek validation. They give it to themselves. This trait is especially powerful in a world where many are taught to doubt, to question, to dim their shine. Aries refuses. They show us what it looks like to walk into a room, take up space, and not apologize for it. Number 5, they take action first. This might be the most Aries trait of all. They don't wait for permission, for certainty, or for the right time. They move, they act, they begin. Where others hesitate, Aries leaps. And yes, sometimes they leap without looking, but that's the cost of momentum. Aries doesn't believe in sitting around waiting for life to happen. They make it happen. Have a dream. Aries will chase it. See something wrong. Aries will confront it. Need someone to break the silence. Raise the hand. Ask the hard question. Aries is already doing it. Their decisiveness is like a superpower. And it doesn't mean they always get it right on the first try. What makes Aries different is that they're not afraid to fail. They know progress is messy. They're not looking for perfection. They're looking for movement. And in a world where overthinking can paralyze even the brightest minds, Aries reminds us that action is the ultimate power move. These 5 traits, natural leadership, fearless risk-taking, endless energy, unshakable confidence, and instinctual action, aren't just personality quirks. They are the core engine behind why Aries stands tall as the most powerful sign in the zodiac. Together they create a person who's not just intense, but magnetic, not just confident, but courageous, not just fast-moving, but deeply purposeful. You feel Aries before they even speak. You know when they're in the room. And after they leave, something lingers, a spark, a shift, a sense that things just moved because they were there. But what many people don't realize is that Aries' power goes even further. Beyond the action and fire, there's a depth to Aries that often gets overlooked, a complexity, a softer side that fuels their intensity with even more purpose. Now that we've explored the core fire behind Aries, the bold leadership, the fearlessness, the boundless energy, the unshakable confidence, and their action-first nature, it's time to dig deeper. Because Aries isn't just powerful on the surface. There's another layer, a quieter, but no less potent kind of strength. These next 5 reasons prove that Aries' power doesn't always come from how loud they are, but from how deeply they feel, how sharply they think, and how fiercely they show up in every part of life. Let's keep going. Number 6, they're blunt, but always honest. Aries will tell you the truth, not the soft, polished version of it, the raw, real, sometimes uncomfortable truth. They don't do sugarcoating, not because they want to hurt anyone, but because they value honesty over harmony. And for them, the most respectful thing you can do for someone is to be direct. If you ask an Aries, "Do you think this is working?" they won't dodge the question. They won't tell you what you want to hear. They'll tell you what you need to hear. It might sting for a moment, but it often saves people from months, sometimes years of confusion. Aries doesn't hide behind pleasantries. They show up, say what needs to be said, and stand in it. In a world where people often hide behind filters, literal and emotional, Aries gives it to you straight. And that clarity, that brutal honesty, that's power. Because sometimes, truth is the most courageous thing you can offer someone. Number 7, they thrive under pressure. Some people fold when the stakes are high. Aries, they come alive. Pressure doesn't rattle them, it sharpens them. While others may freeze or panic, Aries taps into a deeper reserve of focus and clarity. It's like they were built for intensity. Deadlines, emergencies, high-stakes moments. Aries shines, not because they enjoy chaos, but because they understand it. They're fast thinkers, quick movers, decisive and unafraid, and that makes them indispensable in moments that matter most. Think about the friend who's calm when things go wrong, who somehow knows what to do when everyone else is spinning out. That's Aries. Under pressure, they don't crumble. They lead, they stabilize, they rise. This resilience isn't just a skill, it's instinct. And it's one of the reasons Aries is trusted in crisis. They've been through fire, and they know how to walk through it without burning out. Number 8, they're independent thinkers. Aries doesn't follow the crowd. They don't care what's trending. They don't look to others to shape their values or beliefs. Their moral compass? Internal, sharp, untouched by peer pressure. This doesn't mean Aries refuses to listen. They absolutely can take advice, but they always filter it through their own logic, their own intuition. They question everything, test it, flip it inside out, and if it doesn't resonate with their truth, they toss it without hesitation. This makes Aries bold in conversation, and often a little intimidating. They're not afraid to disagree, even if they're the only one in the room with a different view. But here's the beautiful part. Aries doesn't need you to agree with them. They just need to be real. This kind of mental independence is rare. In a world where people are constantly looking sideways, checking what others are doing, thinking, liking, Aries looks forward, and that clarity of thought is a kind of power all its own. Number 9, they bounce back fast. You can knock Aries down. Life can hit them hard, but it rarely keeps them there. Give them a moment, maybe an hour, a day, tops, and they'll be back on their feet, already planning their next move. It's not that they don't feel pain. They do, deeply. Aries gets hurt just like anyone else, but they don't build a home in pain. They don't replay the same story 100 times. They don't over-identify with suffering. Instead, they use it. They learn, pivot, and transform it into drive. This ability to rebound, to recover emotionally and mentally, gives Aries a serious edge. It means they're always growing, always moving, always evolving, while others are still processing what went wrong. Aries is already 10 steps into what's next. That mental toughness, that inner fire that refuses to die, is part of what makes them so powerful. They're survivors, but not just of hardship. They're survivors of their own doubts, and that's even harder to overcome. Number 10, they set the bar high, and they rise to meet it. Aries doesn't do just okay. They're not satisfied with average. Whether it's in their career, relationships, or personal growth, they aim high. They expect more from life, and even more from themselves. This high standard isn't about perfectionism. It's about purpose. Aries wants their time to matter, their work to mean something, their relationships to be real and honest. They're not interested in surface-level anything. If it's not deep, true, and worth the effort, they won't waste time. But what makes this powerful is that Aries doesn't just expect greatness. They pursue it relentlessly. They'll wake up early, stay late, fall down, and try again, all to reach that standard they set. And when they do hit it, they raise the bar again. This kind of self-demand pushes them to grow faster, achieve more, and lead by example. It challenges everyone around them to level up, not because Aries tells them to, but because their actions are contagious. They don't just talk about what they want, they become it. So when we talk about Aries being the most powerful sign of the zodiac, we're not just talking about loud, fiery traits. We're talking about depth, about integrity, about a kind of internal fire that can't be shaken, even by disappointment or failure. These 5 reasons show the other side of Aries, the part that's quietly, consistently pushing forward, refusing to give up or slow down. And while this layer may not be the first thing you notice about them, it's what sustains their power. It's what fuels the leadership, the bold moves, and the fast-paced decisions. It's the inner strength that holds the outer fire. But we're not done yet, because there's still more to understand, more layers to unfold. Aries' power doesn't exist in isolation. It touches everything they do, the way they inspire others, the way they handle relationships, the way they challenge the world to be bolder. So far, we've uncovered the instinctive leadership of Aries, their relationship with risk, their natural energy, emotional resilience, and the unwavering standards they set for themselves and others. But to really understand why Aries holds such power within the zodiac, we need to look at what happens when that fire isn't just turned inward, but begins to shape everything around them. Because Aries doesn't just move for themselves, they shift the energy of every space they step into. They influence, challenge, and awaken. And often, they don't even realize they're doing it. Let's dive into the next 5 reasons Aries is the most powerful sign of the zodiac. This time, focusing on how their presence creates impact far beyond themselves. Number 11, they own their space. When Aries walks into a room, you know it. It's not just their posture or expression, it's the energy they carry. They take up space unapologetically, not because they want attention, but because they believe they deserve to be there. And that belief is magnetic. In conversations, they're fully present. In debates, they're bold. In silence, they're still powerful. They don't shrink to make others feel comfortable. They don't play small. And that kind of presence sends a message without saying a word. Think of someone who walks into a room and immediately becomes the center of gravity without trying. That's Aries. They don't need approval to feel worthy. They don't need praise to know their value. They carry their worth within them, and it shows in everything, from how they sit, to how they speak, to how they leave an impression without even meaning to. This ability to own their space is a lesson for everyone, because true power isn't about dominating. It's about being grounded in who you are, no matter where you are. Number 12, they light people up. Aries has this spark that's contagious. Spend a little time with them and you'll find yourself thinking bigger, dreaming louder, moving faster. They bring a fire that doesn't burn. It awakens. It motivates. It's not that they try to inspire people. It's just a byproduct of how they live, the way they take chances, speak freely, and chase what they want. It reminds others that they can do the same. Aries doesn't give long speeches or hand out advice unless you ask. They don't need to. Their example is the advice. Their presence makes people feel like more is possible. And that's a rare kind of influence, because most people don't need more instructions. They need to feel permission. Aries gives that, not by talking about what's possible, but by showing it's possible. This kind of energy is powerful, not just because of how it moves them, but because of how it moves others. Number 13, they hate settling. Aries doesn't do mediocre. In fact, nothing makes them more uncomfortable than the idea of staying somewhere just because. Whether it's a job, a relationship, a lifestyle, or a belief, if it no longer feels true, they won't fake it. They won't force it. Settling feels like suffocating to Aries. They're wired for growth, for challenge, for more. And when they feel boxed in or stuck, they won't stay there for long. Even if leaving means starting over, even if it means walking away from comfort, their desire for alignment is stronger than their fear of loss. This refusal to settle is one of the quietest yet most powerful things about Aries, because it requires self-trust, it requires vision, it requires the willingness to walk away from good in search of great. And not many people are willing to do that, but Aries is. And that's why they end up building lives, careers, and relationships that feel fully alive, because they're not willing to fake it just to keep the peace. Number 14, they push boundaries. Aries doesn't accept this is just how it is. In fact, that phrase might be one of their biggest triggers. Tell them something can't be done, and they'll start figuring out how to prove you wrong, right then and there. They challenge norms, question authority, and test limitations. not out of rebellion, but out of instinct. If a rule doesn't make sense, Aries will break it. If a system feels outdated, Aries will reinvent it. They weren't born to fit in. They were born to move things forward. And here's what makes this trait so powerful. Aries pushes limits not just for themselves, but for others too. They open doors people didn't know existed. They stretch what's considered normal or possible. They take the uncomfortable path because that's where the growth is. This makes them pioneers, innovators, leaders of change, because they don't just accept reality, they shape it. Number 15, they're unafraid of conflict. While most people avoid confrontation, Aries walks straight into it, not to create drama, but to resolve tension, to speak truth, to defend what matters. They understand something most people don't, that conflict, when handled with honesty, can be productive. It can clear the air, set boundaries, fix what's broken. Aries doesn't believe in fake harmony. They'd rather deal with the storm than live under the weight of silence. This makes them bold communicators. It also makes them powerful protectors. If someone crosses a line, with them or someone they love, Aries won't sit quietly. They'll confront, clarify, and correct. And they won't do it subtly. But even in conflict, Aries is real. They might get fired up, but they don't hold grudges, they don't play games, they fight, they fix, and they move on. That kind of directness can be jarring, but it's also deeply refreshing, because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is call something out. Say what others won't. Aries knows this, and they do it. These 5 reasons, owning their space, lighting others up, refusing to settle, breaking boundaries, and facing conflict head-on, reveal the impact Aries has on the world around them. It's not just about what they do, it's about what they awaken in others. Aries doesn't just live boldly, they live authentically, they live awake, and that energy spreads. It creates ripple effects. It shows people what's possible, what's real, and what's worth fighting for. And this is where Aries becomes more than just an individual force. They become an influence, a catalyst, a reason others remember who they are. But we're still not done. Because Aries isn't just powerful in action or presence, they're powerful in connection, in the way they show up in relationships, in the passion they bring to everything they care about. And that's where we're headed next. So far, we've explored Aries as a force in motion, how they lead, how they influence, how they rise. But now it's time to look at something even more compelling, how they connect, because Aries' power isn't just external. It's deeply emotional, deeply personal. And when they care with their whole soul. That's where their real fire lives. Number 16, they don't run from a fight. Aries may be known for their boldness in action, but that same fire shows up in the emotional realm too. When someone they love is hurting, when something's not fair, or when someone needs defending, Aries is already on the front line. They don't flinch, they don't hesitate, they show up. They don't care if it's uncomfortable, messy, or confrontational. In fact, the harder the situation, the more fiercely Aries responds. Because love, for them, is not passive. It's protection, it's involvement, it's action. They won't sit by and watch someone they care about struggle. They won't whisper support from the sidelines. They'll stand up, speak out, and sometimes even go to battle on your behalf. They'd rather take the heat than see someone they care about get burned. And while that might look intense, it's actually one of the deepest signs of love they can offer. Aries protects what matters, no matter what it costs them. Number 17, they defend their people. There's a big difference between being supportive and being all in. Aries is the second kind. If you're in their circle, you're family, and family is sacred. They'll brag about you in rooms you're not in. They'll hype you up before your big day. They'll remember the name of that one person who hurt you 3 years ago and still bring it up when you need a laugh. They love hard, and that love comes with loyalty that doesn't budge. They'll challenge you too. Aries doesn't believe in blind support. If you're messing up, they'll call it out. If you're doubting yourself, they'll remind you who you are. But through it all, they'll stay. They don't disappear when things get tough. They're not afraid of your pain or your mess. If anything, It makes them dig deeper into the relationship. That kind of loyalty isn't just comforting, it's rare. And it's another reason Aries holds so much quiet power. When they're in, they're all in. Number 18. They have iron willpower. Underneath all the spark and speed is a steady core that doesn't crack. When Aries decides they're going to do something, learn a new skill, heal from heartbreak, climb out of debt, build something from the ground up, they commit. Not halfway, all the way. They may get discouraged. They may even fall apart for a moment. But quitting, that's not in their DNA. They'll find another route, another angle, another spark to reignite the mission. They're fueled by grit as much as passion. And the best part? Their determination isn't flashy. It's not about making a show. Most of the time, people don't even see how hard Aries is pushing behind the scenes. They just see the results. But behind every win is 1,000 tiny acts of willpower that Aries never stopped showing up for, even when no one was watching. That inner steel, that fire that doesn't flicker when things get hard, that's one of Aries' most overlooked strengths. Number 19, they create their own path. Aries doesn't wait for doors to open. If the opportunity isn't there, they'll build it from scratch, with their bare hands if they have to. They don't rely on systems, approval, or tradition to validate their dreams. If something calls to them, something that hasn't been done, or doesn't make sense to anyone else, they go anyway. That's the beauty of their fire. It's fueled by intuition, not instruction. This makes Aries pioneers. They start businesses others are too afraid to try. They pursue relationships that don't follow the rules. They take creative paths no one understands until years later. And by the time people start catching on, Aries is already 2 steps into their next chapter. Their refusal to follow someone else's script is what leads them into original, wild, beautiful territory. They might not always know where they're going, but they trust themselves enough to walk into the unknown. That's not just courage, that's vision. Number 20, they're always moving forward. Aries doesn't stay stuck, even when life gets heavy, even when their heart is shattered, even when things feel unfair, unfinished, or unresolved. They process pain while in motion. They don't numb out, they evolve. You'll rarely find an Aries replaying the past, not because they don't care, but because they understand something vital. The only way out is through, and the only way through is forward. They don't dwell, and they don't spiral. They use pain as fuel, not a prison. This doesn't mean they don't grieve. They do, sometimes deeply. But once Aries decides to move on, it's with intention. They shift their focus to what's next, what's possible, what can still be built. It's this ability to bounce forward, not just back, that makes them resilient in a way that's almost shocking. They don't just survive the storm, they grow in the middle of it. And that right there is the essence of their emotional power. These 5 reasons show that Aries isn't just powerful in presence, action, or ambition. They're powerful in their hearts, in how they love, in how they rise through pain, in how they stay loyal, grounded, and fearless, even in the most emotional parts of life. And this layer, the emotional layer, is what makes Aries unforgettable. Because yes, they'll challenge you. They'll test your patience. They'll burn hot and fast and push every limit. But they'll also stand beside you when no one else does. They'll believe in you before you believe in yourself. They'll fight for you, protect you, and walk with you every step of the way. And when someone loves like that, it's impossible to forget. But there's still more to uncover. Aries doesn't just operate from the heart or the mind. There's another dimension to their power, one that's often underestimated, one that reveals itself in the quiet moments, when no one's watching and they're simply being. We've walked through the fire of Aries' outer world, how they lead, love, protect, and push forward. But power isn't always loud. It doesn't always look like motion, ambition, or bold statements. Sometimes, Aries' greatest strength comes from what's quiet, what's hidden, what sits just below the surface of their intensity. Because under the fire there's depth, there's introspection, there's emotion that runs so deep it surprises even them. And it's this layer, the one most people overlook, that reveals just how whole and complex Aries really is. Number 21, They're incredibly creative. People often associate creativity with signs like Pisces or Libra, but make no mistake, Aries is a creative force. Their minds are constantly spinning with ideas, solutions, visions for what could be. They're not just thinkers, they're doers. That means their creativity isn't stuck in imagination. It's turned into action. Aries will start a new project just because they feel inspired. They'll launch an idea before they've even figured out how to finish it. They'll reinvent something that's been done 100 times and still make it feel brand new. And even if it doesn't work, they don't see it as failure. They see it as progress. This creative fire isn't always artistic. Sometimes it's entrepreneurial, sometimes it's strategic, sometimes it's emotional. They'll find a new way to connect with someone or solve a relationship issue no one else could figure out. It shows up wherever they put their energy. Aries doesn't wait for permission to create. They just start, and that's what makes them original, visionary, limitless. Number 22, they're deeply passionate. Aries doesn't do anything halfway. When they care, it's all in. When they love, it's with fire. When they're excited about something, the world feels it. That kind of emotional intensity is not only rare, it's brave, because passion is vulnerable. It means showing how much something matters to you. It means taking emotional risks. Aries does that without flinching, and that's where their emotional power shines through. Their passion isn't just for people, it's for everything that lights them up. Their work, their dreams, their beliefs, their purpose. When they commit, they give their whole self. And even if they don't always stick with something forever, you can bet that while they are in it, it gets everything they've got. This emotional full send is a big part of what makes Aries magnetic. They make you feel things just by feeling deeply themselves. Number 23, they feel everything intensely. Aries is often seen as impulsive or hot-headed. But what people miss is what's underneath, a heart that feels things in extremes. They don't just get a little sad, they feel heartbreak in their bones. They don't just get frustrated, they burn with injustice. They don't just get happy, they radiate it. They may not always have the words to express these emotions perfectly. Sometimes it comes out as a sharp comment or silence or energy that you can feel but can't quite explain. But it's there, strong, real, alive. This intensity can be overwhelming for some, even for Aries themselves. But it's also what gives them empathy. Fire doesn't just destroy, it warms, it connects, it reaches. And when Aries learns how to hold that intensity instead of running from it or exploding with it, that's when their emotional power becomes something transformational. Number 24, they don't fear starting over. While some people stay in the wrong job, the wrong relationship, or the wrong version of themselves out of fear, Aries does the opposite. If something isn't working, they move. They'll burn it down and rebuild from scratch if they have to, and they won't hesitate. This isn't recklessness, it's trust. Aries trusts that something better can be built, that there's always more life to live, that the next chapter might be the one that changes everything. This trait is especially powerful because it's not driven by optimism, it's driven by bravery. Starting over means facing the unknown, admitting what's not working, and choosing growth over comfort. That's one of the hardest emotional moves a person can make. Aries does it over and over again, and every time they do, they emerge stronger, clearer, more aligned with who they really are. Number 25, they're always themselves. In a world that's constantly pushing people to fit in, Aries doesn't bend. They're not interested in being more palatable, more polite, more likable. They'd rather be real. They don't fake opinions to keep peace. They don't smile when they're dying inside. They don't change who they are to impress someone else. Aries shows up fully as they are, wherever they go. That kind of authenticity can be jarring, especially to people used to surface-level interactions. But it's also incredibly refreshing. You never have to guess where you stand with Aries. You don't have to decode their words or wonder what they're really thinking. If it's in their heart, it's coming out of their mouth, ready or not. This honesty, this rawness, is what makes Aries so trustworthy. You may not always agree with them. You may not always like what they say, but you'll know it's the truth. And in a world full of filters and facades, that kind of emotional realness is priceless. These 5 reasons highlight something we don't talk about enough when it comes to Aries: their emotional complexity, their creative spark, their ability to feel big feelings and still move through them with strength, their commitment to truth, even when it's messy. It proves that Aries' power doesn't just live in motion or fire or boldness. It lives in their humanity, their heart, their willingness to feel and keep going, to break and still believe, to care so deeply it hurts, and love so hard it heals. And when you combine this depth with their natural leadership, their independence, their relentless spirit, you begin to understand why Aries isn't just powerful. They're whole. They are both the wildfire and the roots, both the loud roar and the quiet knowing. But we're not finished, because Aries still has one more layer, one more kind of strength that doesn't always get noticed, but should, because it's this final group of traits that reveals how Aries moves through life, not just with fire, but with wisdom. After all we've explored, Aries' leadership, their emotional fire, their resilience, their fierce loyalty, it might seem like we've seen it all, but Aries still has a kind of power most people overlook. It's not the dramatic kind. It's not loud or showy. It's the kind that lives in their everyday presence, in how they carry themselves, in the way people feel when Aries is around. This is the quiet confidence, the self-trust, the grounded force that gives Aries their staying power. Let's explore 5 more reasons Aries is the most powerful sign of the zodiac, starting with what makes their presence impossible to ignore. Number 26. They inspire without trying. Aries doesn't wake up thinking, how can I motivate people today? They just live, boldly, authentically, unapologetically. And because of that, people naturally look to them for courage. It's the way they walk into a room and don't shrink, the way they speak their truth without asking for approval, the way they fail and get back up like it's just part of the process. Aries shows us, without words, that it's okay to be real, to take risks, to go first. People are drawn to Aries because being around them makes you want to step up, to stop playing small, to go after the thing you've been avoiding. And they don't even have to say a word. They lead simply by being themselves. Number 27. They're mentally tough. Life tests everyone, but when things get hard, really hard, Aries has this inner strength that keeps them steady. They might feel everything, but they don't fall apart easily. They're wired to keep going. Even when they're hurting, doubting, or struggling, there's a voice inside Aries that says, "You've got this." And that voice is louder than the fear. It doesn't mean they don't break down sometimes. It means that when they do, they find a way to rebuild stronger than before. This mental toughness makes them reliable in ways people often don't expect. They might be fiery and fast-moving, but when things fall apart, Aries becomes the anchor for themselves and sometimes for everyone around them. Number 28. They're visionaries. Aries doesn't just think about today. They see what could be. Their minds are always a few steps ahead, imagining better ways, new paths, different outcomes. They don't always follow the logical route. They don't need a map. They trust the vision. Whether it's starting a new project, building a brand, or simply reimagining what their life could look like, Aries is constantly shaping the future, not just for themselves, but for others too. They see possibilities others miss, and they're brave enough to pursue them. That kind of visionary power is rare, and it's part of why Aries ends up being first. Not because they chase it, but because they see it before anyone else does. Number 29. They make things happen. Some people dream. Aries does. If they want something, they'll figure out how to get it. If it doesn't exist yet, they'll create it. If a door is closed, they'll build a new one. This action-oriented mindset is one of Aries' most defining traits. They don't get stuck in planning mode. They don't wait for the right time. They know the best way to learn is by doing. And so they move fast, boldly, and with total faith in their ability to figure it out as they go. This is the trait that gets results, that changes lives, that builds businesses, heals hearts, and writes stories worth remembering. Aries doesn't just dream big, they chase big, and that's what sets them apart. Number 30, they know who they are. This is the final piece, the core of everything. Aries knows themselves. They might still be growing, learning, and changing, but they never lose sight of who they are, and they never pretend to be anything else. They don't play roles. They don't wear masks. They're not trying to blend in. Their identity is solid, loud or quiet, seen or unseen. Aries walks through life with a sense of self that can't be shaken. And in a world where so many people are trying to figure out who they are or how to fit in, Aries is a reminder that it's not about fitting in at all. It's about standing in your truth, owning your space, choosing your path, and being bold enough to walk it, even if you walk alone. These last 5 reasons show the kind of power that isn't always seen, but is always felt. Aries doesn't just influence people with fire. They influence with certainty, with clarity, with the kind of quiet inner strength that holds everything together when life gets messy. We've reached the end of this journey, but something tells me, if you're still here, you're either an Aries yourself or someone who just gets it now. We've talked about the bold, unapologetic fire Aries brings to every space they enter. We've broken down 30 reasons, 30 moments, traits, truths that show why Aries stands as the most powerful sign in the zodiac. And not just because they're fierce or fearless, but because they're real. So let's take a breath and reflect on what we've uncovered. We saw how Aries leads without trying, how they don't wait for permission to move, speak, or act, how they throw themselves into life, head first, heart open, no fear. They don't hesitate, they don't hold back, they don't second guess their right to take up space. We learned that Aries doesn't just lead in action, they lead in feeling, in loyalty, in love. When they care hard. They protect what's theirs. They defend who they love. And they don't walk away when things get messy. If anything, that's when they lean in harder. We saw the side of Aries most people overlook, the emotional depth, the fire that fuels their creativity, the way they feel everything, sometimes too much, but never with shame. Because Aries doesn't apologize for being intense. They own it. They turn it into motion, connection, art, and evolution. We saw how Aries inspires without trying, how their presence challenges others to rise, how their confidence isn't cocky. It's built from years of self-trust, how they keep going even when no one's cheering, how they keep building even when the blueprint doesn't exist yet. And maybe most powerful of all, we saw that Aries knows who they are. That clarity, that's rare. In a world that constantly asks us to filter ourselves, soften ourselves, explain ourselves, Aries just is. They burn bright, they burn real, and they make no apology for it. So if you're an Aries watching this, take this as your mirror, a reminder, a celebration of all the things that make you intense, fast, passionate, honest, sometimes a little chaotic, but always, always powerful. You don't need to become anything. You already are. And if you're not an Aries, but someone who loves one, admires one, or is maybe just now starting to understand one, thank you for being here. Because seeing someone for who they truly are is a form of love too. Now here's the part where I turn it over to you. If this video lit something up in you, if it reminded you of your own fire or someone else's, don't just sit with it. Hit that like button. It takes 1 second, but it tells the algorithm, this matters. Subscribe to Secret of the Zodiac if you haven't already. This channel is for people who don't just read about astrology, but feel it. Who see themselves in the signs. Who want to understand themselves and others on a soul level. And we're just getting started. We've got more videos coming, breaking down the beauty and power of every sign. So don't miss what's next. But more than that, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, are you an Aries? Which of these 30 traits hit the hardest for you? Do you know an Aries? What's the most Aries thing they've ever done? Which one of these strengths do you relate to, even if you're not an Aries? Let's light up the comment section. Let's create a thread of bold, honest, fiery stories that remind us what this sign is all about. If there's one thing Aries teaches us, it's that our truth deserves to be heard. So let's hear yours. And if you've made it this far, thank you. Seriously, it means you're not just watching, you're connecting. And that's what makes this space more than a channel. It makes it a community. So subscribe, comment, and check out the other videos on the channel, because every sign has power, and Secret of the Zodiac is here to show you where yours lives. Until next time, stay bold, stay honest, stay lit from within, just like an Aries.